It began with a nightmare no one saw coming. 6:42 a.m., the sky over the Red Sea tore open, not from thunder, but from steel. Multiple objects streaked through the air, missiles, UAVs, and raw fury, striking a U.S. aircraft carrier without warning. No flags, no speeches, only deadly silence and chilling speed. In an era where enemies hide in plain sight, danger no longer knocks it, drives straight into the heart. A peaceful morning turned into a storm of war. And then, the sunrise was just a disguise. The world still had no clue what had just begun. The Red Sea lay calm under the April light, as if peace was in command. Aboard the $5 billion USS Seahawk, sailors carried out their daily routines, inspecting aircraft, greeting each other with sleepy yawns. But none of them knew that within minutes they'd face a nightmare of burning steel and fire, where every second teetered on the edge of life and death. And this is just the beginning. Watch the full video to uncover the rest. At that moment, peace shattered into pieces. 6:42, alarms screamed, and radar screens flashed blood red. Threats approached from multiple directions. 6 cruise missiles, 2 ballistic missiles, 3 UAVs. This wasn't random, they were programmed, coordinated to strike in unison. The command room turned into a whirlwind of orders and data. But beneath the urgency was a chilling realization. This was a meticulously planned assault, not a stray shot, and the target the ultimate symbol of American power. And then they struck like phantoms from Yemen's rugged terrain. Missiles launched and descended like deadly arrows. Some soared high before plunging straight down. Others skimmed the sea's surface, slipping beneath radar. The UAVs were small, fast, and cheap, not meant to destroy, but to confuse, overwhelming the defense systems. This attack wasn't just military, it was a message. A small, smart, and well-armed insurgent group could land a stinging blow on the symbol of American naval dominance. But the strike wasn't just aimed at the Seahawk. A wave of terror swept through the entire escort fleet. Urgent reports confirmed 3 more ships were hit simultaneously: a destroyer, a cruiser, and a critical supply vessel. This was no longer a warning, it was an act of war. A small force was attempting the unthinkable, to shatter America's steel-clad defense line with deadly arrows. One moment, the Red Sea was calm; the next, it became a brutal battlefield. In that heart-pounding momentone, wrong decision could plunge the entire fleet into flames. Aboard the Seahawk, enemy markers lit up the radar like a Christmas tree. The defense team immediately understood. This wasn't a random barrage, but a pre-woven web of death. Each projectile had a different speed, altitude, and trajectory, coordinated with terrifying precision. A digital nightmare descended on the deck, and the Americans realized they were facing a new kind of war. And then, the horrifying truth became clear. This was an entirely new kind of warfare, where ghosts flew just above the sea. The 6 cruise missiles were identified as Quds 4S, Iranian-designed, skimming the water like phantoms. They slipped past radar, masked by the sound of waves. Unlike traditional missiles, they didn't soar, they crawled low, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This wasn't about intimidation anymore. These were launched to kill, and they chose America's most vulnerable moment. The nightmare wasn't over too. Ballistic missiles came crashing down from the upper skies like thunderous warhammers. If the Quds 4S were invisible daggers, these were sledgehammers from the heavens. A simultaneous strike from above and below, a life-or-death test for America's defense systems. And to pour fuel on the fire, 3 micro-UAVs surged forward. These poor man's aircraft weren't built to destroy, only to distract, and that's what made them truly terrifying. But disaster still struck as the Seahawk swerved hard to evade the ballistic missiles. An FA-18E Super Hornet slipped and plunged off the deck. No one was in the cockpit, but the moment the jet vanished beneath the waves, a heavy silence fell over the ship. Not for the lost aircraft, but for the brutal reminder. Even without a direct hit, war claims its toll. Sometimes, pressure itself is the deadliest enemy. Chaos doesn't just come from outside, it rises from within the steel. Subscribe now so you don't miss what's next. And the chills only deepened in that split-second struggle for survival. The UAVs flew at 600 feet, blending with seabirds and waves. Every blip on the radar became a deadly question: harmless or carrying explosives? A defense system off by just a few degrees, and a real missile could pierce the deck. In that moment, a terrifying truth emerged. The enemy didn't need expensive weapons, just data, timing, and a level of cunning that sent shivers down the spine. It didn't stop there. The Seahawk was in maintenance mode, the one moment when every fighter jet was tucked away in the hangar. On the deck stood technicians, not pilots. A vessel meant to be a fortress had become a hollow target. The Houthis didn't strike blindly. They waited, watched, and hit when America was weakest. This wasn't a stray barrage, it was a ruthless chess move. And now, the game no longer plays by the old rules. And then came the most chilling revelation of force. Once dismissed as ragtag and rebellious, had just proven it could harness modern technology to strike at the heart of a superpower. The U.S. fleet remained intact, physically unharmed, but the message rang out like an alarm bell. This was no longer war fought with battleships, and bombsit was war waged with cunning, asymmetry, and attacks no one ever saw coming. And then, the moment of retaliation arrived beneath the lingering dawn. The Seahawks command center became the heart of a life-or-death symphony. Every alarm, every sharp command was a heartbeat in the chaos. Missiles were just seconds from impact. The legendary Aegis combat system roared to life, torrents of data from escort ships flooding in like a storm. The crew no longer stared at screens. They were staring into a future hurtling toward them like a scythe of death. What followed was a display of life and death. The massive CIWS weapon systems, known as the Last Sword, began to spin. Each 6-barrel cannon could fire 4,500 rounds per minuteless bullets, more a storm of steel. The USS Gravely was the first to fire. Standard 2 missiles screamed into the sky, shredding the first target. A bone-chilling reminder that here, every second teeters on the edge between survival and annihilation, and victory always comes with a gasp. The Red Sea, once a safe corridor, had now become a high-stakes battleground, not because of the missiles, but because of the message. The US no longer waits for allies. This shift left US-dependent nations both relieved and uneasy. Tel Aviv praised it as a bold deterrent, Tokyo viewed it as a strategic shield, but behind the applause, Europe's diplomats voiced quiet concern. But the enemy couldn't stay hidden forever in Tehran. State media remained silent. Yet, experts noticed, drone launches from Yemen had sharply declined. The Houthis issued no statements, and their digital propaganda channels went eerily dark. That silence wasn't pride, it was fear in disguise. Because in asymmetric warfare, power doesn't lie in how many missiles you fired, but in making your enemy believe you could fire again at any moment. But perhaps the most profound shift happened deep within the ship, where every sailor began to speak differently. Weapons ready was no longer a drill commanded, was a visceral, skin-deep reality. Rules of engagement became fluid. Radar wasn't just a tool anymore, it was a ticking time bomb. Every UAV on the horizon could be a camera or a winged death. And in that gray zone, alertness was no longer a choice, it was survival instinct. In a life-or-death moment, a single beam of light could decide the fate of the world's most powerful aircraft carrier. As new threats escalate, the U.S. Navy is shifting from firepower to physics. In the age of drones and hypersonic missiles, the weapon of the future might just be light. And that's only the beginning. That surplus of electricity is the foundation for the next leap next-gen radars, electronic warfare systems, and even laser weapons. Where energy was once a limitation, it's now the key to unlocking a new level of unmatched power. From launch systems to radar and weapons, the USS Ford is built for battles that have never happened before. Every detail is engineered for automation, reducing crew demands and boosting response time. Its aircraft elevators move faster, allowing for more combat sorties per day than ever before. The Ford isn't just a warship, it's a statement. US naval power isn't standing still, it's racing into the future at the speed of light. In the 21st century, size is no longer everything. It's about intelligence, energy, and technology that can adapt to any threat. And what turns that statement into reality is the nuclear power at the heart of the Ford. Its two A-1B reactors don't just generate energy, they unlock the future of high-tech weaponry. This is no longer just a ship, it's a living, evolving, all-in-one defense machine. Unlike older ships, the Ford's two A-1B reactors are 3 times more powerful, generating 300 megawatts of electricity. This doesn't just make the Ford more enduring, it gives it the muscle to run technologies other ships can't, from long-range radar to laser systems capable of countering hypersonic missiles. It's that abundant energy distribution that creates unprecedented flexibility. While traditional warships must choose between powering radar, electronic warfare, or weapons, the Ford runs all of them simultaneously without losing effectiveness, a massive advantage in complex combat environments.
A major step forward in the Ford eventually joining the deployable fleet.
But what truly stuns the world is this. The Ford is powerful enough to deploy a weapon never seen before: high energy lasers. Unlike missiles or cannons, these weapons need only power. For the first time in history, a ship can turn electricity into a deadly strike. And it's this very power source that drives the advanced EMALS electromagnetic launch system. No steam-required aircraft launch off the deck with incredible speed and pinpoint precision. Every launch is an engineering marvel, fast, smooth, and without the wear and tear on aircraft seen in older systems. And then came the true nightmare: hypersonic missiles and drone swarms. These are the predators of the new century, faster than sound, deadlier than anything seen before. Without new solutions, even a supercarrier like the Ford could be sunk in seconds. After the operation, the Pentagon released satellite images and named every commander taken out, not to boast, but to plant deep seeds of doubt within the enemy ranks. Who betrayed us? Who's leaking intel? True collapse doesn't come from a bomb, it comes from a fracture in trust. And that is the coldest message of modern warfare. You don't need to take territory to win, you just need to make the enemy question the person beside them. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment so I know you stopped by.